Hi everyone, my name is Victor and I'm one of the authors of Technique.com. Today we're going to continue with our course and we're going to be looking at software installation in Linux part 1. Alright, so installation in Linux is quite different from software installation in Windows. In Windows, most times you will have to download an executable file that is .exe and specify an installation path to install a software. However, software installation in Linux requires using a software repository most of the time and a package manager. Anyway, sometimes you can also download a package, an RPM package, but most of the time it requires using a repository and a package manager. So, what is a package manager in Linux? A package manager is a software program. It's an application to itself that is used to manage software in Linux systems. So the package manager can help you to download, it can help you to update, search, and delete packages as it deems necessary on the system. So I'd like to differentiate between the software and the package manager before I continue. All right. So to better explain this, I'll be using the Windows operating system as a comparison. In Windows, if you want to install Office 2016, for example, you'll have to click on the Office 2016 and click on the setup file, which is the executable file, right? To be able to install. So you can see that this is the executable file. So to be able to install a software, all right. So in Linux, this executable file too can be compared to as a package, all right, or the folders that comprises of the executable file. So, like for example, this Office 2016 has some files and directories in it that is also embedded in the software to make the software work. So in Linux also, a package can contain all the necessary binaries, codes, programs, configuration files necessary to install a software. More importantly, a package in Linux contains information about dependencies. So as we go on, we'll look at what dependencies are. In Windows, most times you say things like, can you please install the SQL software? Also, similarly, in Linux, you can say, can you please install the SQL software, which is something like, can you please install the SQL package? All right. So, to a large extent, one can technically say that a package is also a software. And for a package manager, just as we said, and as the name implies, a manager, it is used to manage a package. A package manager can manage a package by using an automation process of automatically downloading dependencies for the software. So as we go on, we'll look at how we can use a package manager to manage a package. All right. So quick one, if you're going to be writing the RHCSA or the LFCS or the SUSE Linux exam, just scroll down to the end of the website and click on the exam DOMS or the exam practice question of the exam you want to write. All right. So we're going to be updating the website from time to time with the exam practice questions. So let's look at what dependencies are. Dependencies are other programs that a software depends on to run on or function. So one thing you must know about Linux is that some dependencies may depend on some other dependencies, and some other dependencies may also depend on some other dependencies, and some other dependencies may also depend on some other dependencies, thereby making installation complex. So before the existence of a package manager, installation in Linux has been a hell and frustrating. As a matter of fact, the complexity of dependencies has discouraged a lot of Linux users in those days from using Linux. So thank God for Package Manager. The advent of Package Manager has solved this complex problem by automating the download of a package when where it automatically downloads and updates dependencies for a package to be installed. So every package comes with a metadata which the package manager uses to automate the download and update of the dependencies. So we will look at how this package manager, how it downloads dependencies as we go on in this course. All right. So another concept you need to understand is a repository. So what is a repository in Linux? A repository, or rather a software repository, is a central server that stores most software or packages, as you might call it. All right. And a repository can be compared to a Google Play Store, for example. When Android users need to install the software, they go to the Play Store to download and install the software, same as Apple Store for Mac users. So, as mentioned before, software installation in Windows is different from software installation in Linux. All right, so in Linux, the package manager most times does installation by getting the packages to be installed from a repository, right? And every Linux distribution have their default official repositories and they are available online, all right? So how would the package manager go into the repository to pull packages alongside its dependencies for installation? All right. So one thing you must know also is that a repository can't be hosted on a Linux system except maybe you configure a local repository, which we're going to also do as we continue. All right. So how is it even possible for a Linux system to host a repository that contains thousands of software? All right. So what drive size on your Linux machine will have to do, will you have to provision to do all of that. So that's why every Linux distribution have a repository configuration file added to the package manager, which is a directive of the official repository online. So for example, for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the repository configuration file for yum package manager is the etc yum.repos.d. All right, so let's go to that directory. So this is a repository configuration file. This is the one for Red Hat, while this is the one that I locally configured on the system. You should also know that some packages that you may want to install may not be in your Linux distributions repository. In that case, you will need to download the software from another site and install the software on your Linux system, or you add a third-party repository to your package manager. So the repository could be from another distribution or entirely from the community. All right. I mean the community repository. So whichever, be very sure of the third party repository that you want to add to your package manager so you will not be a victim of viruses and malware attacks. In the next lesson, we'll look at the types of package manager we have. All right. So thank you for watching and please subscribe to this channel. Bye for now.